Finally, your house is mine." That sentence came from my older sister Megan standing at the witness stand. 10 minutes later, Megan was the one going silent when the judge looked up and asked her about the recordings. As always, before we dive into a story with an ending that's going to feel so satisfying, let's do a quick roll call. Type present and tell me which city you're watching this story from in the comments. For everyone who's already liked and subscribed, I pray that God makes your problems easier, widens your income, and keeps you healthy. Thank you, my friends. Now, listen carefully to my story. People think the worst thing your siblings can do is borrow your clothes without asking or forget your birthday. My sister tried to steal my house in court with my parents cheering for her. My name is Claire. I'm 34, divorced, and I live in a small 2-story house my grandmother left me when she was gone for good. When she was still alive, Grandma always said, "This house is for Claire. She's the one who stayed with me when I was sick." Back then, Megan didn't care. She was busy traveling, posting photos in Bali and Europe, changing jobs every few months. I was the boring one, the one who took night shifts to pay bills and then spent mornings taking Grandma to appointments. When Grandma passed, the will was clear. The house was mine. Not ours, not everyone's, mine. At first, Megan pretended to be fine. She hugged me at the funeral and whispered, "Grandma trusted you. I'm happy for you, seriously." But little cracks showed up over time, like the way she'd walk through my living room and say, "You know, this place is too big for you alone. It would make more sense if it was a family home." Or how my mother, Margaret, suddenly started with, "You should think about what's fair, Claire. You know Megan has kids to think about in the future." I didn't have kids. My ex-husband thought my grandma was a burden and told me to put her in a home. So I chose Grandma over him, and he left. I never regretted it, but I paid the price. The first real red flag came one Tuesday afternoon. A letter from the bank showed up in my mailbox, addressed to me, but the content made my stomach twist. "Thank you for your inquiry regarding refinancing the property at my address." I hadn't asked for anything. I called the bank confused, and the woman on the phone checked the system. It shows someone started an application yesterday, but it's incomplete. They didn't finish the signature verification." "Someone?" I repeated. "Who?" "I'm sorry, I can't give names over the phone," she said, "but the system shows the person claimed to be you." My heart started beating faster. In my head, I was thinking, who would even dare pretend to be me for this house? But I already knew the answer. That weekend, Megan came over with cupcakes for old time's sake. She was all smiles, walking around the house like a real estate agent. "You ever think of selling?" she asked casually. "You could get a lot of money, move into a nice apartment, no gardening, no repairs." "I'm okay here." She chuckled. "You say that now, but wait until something expensive breaks. Then you'll wish someone had to help you handle the big decisions." She said it like a joke, but her eyes were sharp. I went quiet for a second, then changed the subject. Later that night, when I walked her to her car, I noticed something sticking out of her handbag. My ID, a photocopy of it. I reached out and pulled it out. "Why do you have this?" She didn't even flinch. "Mom wanted to check something about the insurance for Grandma's old policy." "Chill, Claire. You're so paranoid lately." "Next time, ask," I said. My hands were shaking a little. She rolled her eyes. "You're imagining things. Nobody's out to get your precious house." But I didn't believe her. A few weeks later, my parents invited me for dinner. Their house used to feel like home. That night, it felt like a meeting I hadn't agreed to. We sat at the table, and my dad, Robert, cleared his throat. "Claire, your mother and I have been talking about the house." There it was. Mom leaned forward. "Your sister is drowning in debt, Claire. She has 2 kids. You have no one. Don't you think it would be better if the house was in her name? For the future." "For the future," Megan repeated softly, like it was some holy phrase. I stared at them. "So because I don't have kids, I don't deserve a home?" Dad sighed. "Don't make this emotional. We're talking about what's logical for the family." Megan jumped in, voice sweet. "You could still live there, of course, but legally it would make more sense if it was under my name. That way, if something happens to you, it stays in the bloodline." "In the bloodline?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "We're literally the same blood, Megan. It's already in the family." She tilted her head. "You know what I mean." Mom gave me that disappointed look. You're being very selfish right now. That hit harder than it should have. I had given up my marriage to care for Grandmom. I lived with her through her worst days. Now I was selfish because I didn't want to sign away the only thing I had left from her? I'm not signing anything, I said quietly. Megan's smile disappeared for a second, then snapped back. Fine, we're not forcing you. We're just trying to help you not make a mistake you'll regret. That night, I drove home with tears in my eyes. In my head, I was thinking, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe they're truly worried about me. But my gut told me something else. The real nightmare started a month later. I came home from work and found an envelope taped to my door. Notice of hearing. I froze at the top step. It was from the court. Inside, there was a petition filed by my own sister. She was asking the court to recognize her as the rightful owner of my house, claiming I had verbally agreed to transfer it and that I was unstable and unfit to manage property alone. I reread those lines 3 times. Unstable, unfit. They painted me like I was some reckless, dangerous person who couldn't handle money. My hands trembled so badly I sat on the floor. I called my mom immediately. Mom, what is this? I said, voice shaking. You wrote that I'm unstable? She sighed like I was bothering her. Don't be dramatic, Claire. We're trying to help you. Megan's just making sure everything is safe. The judge will understand. Help me, I almost joked, by taking my house away? You were twisting things, she snapped. You said many times you can't handle everything alone. You keep crying and talking about being tired. Now when we step in, suddenly we're the bad ones? Gaslighting. That was the moment I realized my own mother was gaslighting me. I never agreed to give Megan the house, I said firmly, and I'm hiring a lawyer. Lawyer? She scoffed. Claire, don't turn this into a war. You'll regret it when you're alone and nobody is there for you. She hung up. I sat on the sofa in silence for a long time, then grabbed my phone and called the only person I trusted with legal stuff, Jason, a college friend who had become a lawyer. When he picked up and heard my voice, he didn't even joke like he usually did. Tell me everything, he said. I sent him photos of the documents. There was a long pause on the line. Claire, this is serious, he finally said. Your sister's claiming you already agreed and your parents are backing her story. If the judge believes you're unstable, they can push through some form of guardianship or control over your assets. So they're trying to make me look crazy so they can take my house? I whispered. Yeah, he said quietly. That's what it looks like. I broke down crying. Okay, he said, listen to me. You're not alone. We're going to fight this, but I need you to be calm and very careful from now on. No screaming on calls, no angry texts. They'll use everything against you. From this moment, we gather proof. Over the next weeks, Jason and I worked like crazy. He explained Megan's angle. She's using a mix of manipulation and a technical argument. If she can prove you're not managing the property well or that you agreed verbally to transfer it, the court can side with her, especially with your parents backing her. So what do we do? I asked. We show the court who she really is, Jason replied, her debts, her behavior, and we show you're stable, responsible, and that you never agreed to anything. We also look for any signs of fraud. You said the bank started a refinancing inquiry in your name, right? That's important. We started with my credit reports. Jason looked through them and whistled. You're clean. No missed payments, nothing alarming. That helps. He hired a private investigator to check Megan's financial situation. The report came back worse than I expected. Maxed out credit cards, gambling app payments, personal loans from shady online lenders. She's sinking, Jason said, tabbing the file. That's her motive. She doesn't care about family legacy. She needs collateral. Then came the turning point. The investigator got surveillance information from the bank. It turned out someone had come into the branch with a copy of my ID trying to start a refinancing process for my house. The bank manager remembered her. Long brown hair, about mid-30s, said she was you, he told the investigator, but something felt off when we checked the signature, so we told her we needed more documents. She left in a hurry. We asked to see the CCTV stills. When Jason opened the file, there was Megan, in my clothes, with her hair styled like mine, holding a folder. I stared at the screen, my jaw hanging. "She tried to impersonate you," Jason said. "This is fraud. This changes everything." But that wasn't all. A week before the hearing, I got an unexpected visit from my neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins. She's in her late 60s, always watching the street from her porch with her little dog. "Claire, dear," she said, clutching her sweater, "I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, but it's been bothering me." "What is it?" I asked. She looked uncomfortable. "I heard your sister and her husband talking outside by their car last month. They didn't see me. He said something about once we get rid of her for good and the house sells, all our problems are solved. Your sister told him to keep his voice down." My skin went cold. "Get rid of me for good?" I repeated slowly. Mrs. Jenkins nodded. "I don't know exactly what they meant, but it didn't sound right. Please be careful." Jason listened to this and nodded. "They're desperate enough to talk about getting you out of the way. We're definitely bringing this up. Not in a dramatic way, but calmly. It shows intent." We didn't have proof of an actual physical plan, and Jason warned me not to accuse them directly of trying to take me out. But the words were there, sitting in my mind like a warning. Then, out of nowhere, our biggest piece of evidence came from someone I didn't expect. Megan's own daughter, Lily. Lily is 8. She loves drawing and playing with her tablet. One evening, she was at my place while Megan ran some errands. She sat on my couch tapping away on a kid's game, then suddenly said, "Mom says you're going to give us the house soon." I forced a smile. "Oh, did she say that?" "Yeah," Lily nodded. "She was talking to Uncle Brian on the phone. She said, once the judge believes Claire can't handle things, the house will be mine." Then she laughed. My chest tightened. "Do you still have that call on your tablet?" I asked as gently as I could. "I don't know. Sometimes it records when Mom's on speaker. Mom says it's annoying." Jason checked the tablet with Lily's dad's permission. They were divorced too, and he hated Megan's schemes. Sure enough, there was a recording app that it picked up that conversation. In the recording, Megan's voice was clear. "Brian, relax. Once the judge sees how emotional Claire is, they'll understand she can't handle the house. I'll help her by taking it. The parents will support me. The house will be under my name. We refinance, clear everything, and finally breathe. Claire will get over it. She always does." Hearing it made me feel sick. Jason, on the other hand, looked fired up. "This is gold," he said. "This is direct proof of her real motive. Not concern, not family fairness. Debt." Our plan was set. We would go to court, let them talk, let them act like the victims. Then Jason would release everything: the bank CCTV, the financial records, Mrs. Jenkins as a witness, and finally the recording from Lily's tablet. The day of the hearing, I felt like I was walking into an execution. The courtroom was cold and bright. My parents sat behind Megan, close enough to touch her shoulder. My mom kept glaring at me like I was a stranger. I sat next to Jason at our table, hands clenched together. When it was Megan's turn to speak, she put on the performance of her life. "Your Honor," she began, voice shaky, "I love my sister. I've always tried to protect her, but she's been struggling since her divorce. She cries a lot. She says she can't handle the house bills. She talks about wanting to disappear. We talked many times, and she agreed it would be better if the house was under my name, so I can manage it for her. I'm not trying to take it away. I'm trying to save her." My mother nodded dramatically, holding a tissue to her eyes. "She's my daughter, Your Honor," when it was her turn to say. "It breaks my heart to say this, but Claire was vulnerable. She acts impulsively. Megan has always been the responsible one with money." My dad added, "We're scared Claire will end up losing the house to bad decisions. Megan can protect her." It was a full role reversal. They painted Megan, the woman drowning in debt and trying to impersonate me at the bank, as the savior. They painted me, the one working 2 jobs and paying bills on time, as the unstable one. When the judge asked if I wanted to respond, my throat tightened. "I'll let my lawyer speak first," I managed to say. Jason stood calm and collected. "Your Honor, before my client responds, may I submit new evidence to the court?" The judge raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead." Jason walked to the evidence table and placed a neatly prepared folder and a USB drive. "Over the past month," he said, "we've gathered information that directly contradicts the picture painted today. We have bank reports, CCTV stills, a recording, and a witness ready to testify." Megan stiffened. For the first time, her eyes flicked nervously toward me. Jason started with the financial records. He showed the late payments, the gambling transactions, the loans. He didn't say it with judgment. He said it like a doctor reading test results. Your Honor, this is the financial status of the petitioner, Megan Carter. These records show a pattern of significant debt and unstable financial behavior. My mother's face changed slightly. She hadn't seen these numbers. Then Jason moved on. Next, we have documentation from the bank. A month before this petition was filed, someone went into the bank, claimed to be my client, Claire Bennett, and tried to start a refinancing process on the property in question. He clicked the remote. On the screen, the CCTV still showed Megan at the bank counter holding a folder. This is the footage provided by the bank, Jason continued. The person is clearly the petitioner, not my client. She used a copy of Claire's ID. The bank manager will testify that he suspected something and stopped the process. The judge leaned forward, frowning. Megan's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Megan herself had gone pale. "That's not what it looks like," she blurted. "I was just checking options. Claire knew about it." Jason didn't even look at her. Lastly, Your Honor, we have an audio recording from a device in the home of the petitioner's child. It was made unintentionally during a call between Megan and a man named Brian, where she described her plan to get the house placed under her name by convincing the court my client is unstable. He played the recording. The courtroom went quiet as Megan's voice filled the room. Once the judge sees how emotional Claire is, they'll understand she can't handle the house. I'll help her by taking it. The parents will support me. The house will be under my name. We refinance, clear everything, and finally breathe. Claire will get over it. She always does. My mother stopped breathing for a second. My father's shoulders slumped. The judge turned, eyes sharp. "Miss Carter, how do you explain this?" Megan's mouth opened and closed like a fish. That was taken out of context. I was just worried about her. We were talking about what might happen if she did something to herself." Jason cut in smoothly. "We also have a neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, willing to testify that she overheard Megan and her partner discussing how their problems would be solved once they got rid of Claire for good and sold the house. Again, this shows intent, not protection." Mrs. Jenkins stood up from the bench where she'd been sitting quietly. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was clear when she confirmed what she heard. The judge looked back at Megan. "This does not look like concern," he said slowly. "This looks like a plan to take control of your sister's property for your own financial gain, using your parents and this court as tools." My mom suddenly stood. "This can't be right. Megan, tell him you didn't mean it like that." Megan's eyes filled with tears. "She always had everything," she cried, pointing at me. "Grandma loved her more. She got the house, the attention, everything. I'm drowning and nobody cares. I just wanted something fair for once." By pretending to be her at the bank? By calling her unstable? By planning to help her by taking the home she legally inherited? The judge asked. Megan's shoulders shook. "You don't understand." "I understand enough," the judge cut in. He turned to me. "Miss Bennett, do you wish to say anything now?" I stood up, legs a bit weak. "I have never agreed to give my house to Megan. I never asked her to manage my finances. I pay my bills. I work. I took care of my grandmother until her last breath. This house is the only thing I have left from her. They tried to make me feel crazy for wanting to keep it. They made me think I was selfish and unstable when all I was doing was protecting what Grandma gave me. My voice cracked, but I kept going. I love my family, but what they're doing is not love, it's control, and I won't let them erase me to fix Megan's debt. Silence. The judge adjusted his glasses. After reviewing the documents, listening to the recording, and hearing the testimonies, the court finds that there is no valid evidence that Miss Bennett agreed to transfer this property to Miss Carter. On the contrary, there is strong evidence of attempted fraud and manipulation by the petitioner. Megan closed her eyes. Therefore, the judge continued, the petition is denied. Full legal ownership of the property remains with Claire Bennett. Furthermore, I am referring this case to the appropriate authorities for further investigation regarding the attempted impersonation and potential fraud at the bank. My heart felt like it skipped a beat. Megan swayed where she stood, her face completely drained. My mom started crying, but not the dramatic tears before. These were small, shocked sobs. After hitting the gavel, the judge looked at me one last time. Miss Bennett, I advise you to be very careful about who you trust with your documents and personal information from now on. I will, Your Honor, I said softly. As people started leaving the courtroom, Megan turned on me, eyes wild. You ruined my life, she hissed. I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilt or shame. I only showed you what you did. You ruined it yourself. My mom tried to come over to me, but I stepped back. Claire, we didn't know about the bank, she said, her voice shaking. We thought she was really helping. She told us. You believed whatever made your lives easier. You never asked me how I felt. You never checked the facts. You were ready to call me unstable in front of a judge because she told you a story. My dad looked at the floor. We were wrong, he muttered. Yeah, you were. I didn't scream. I didn't cause a scene. I just picked up my bag, thanked Jason and Mrs. Jenkins, and walked out of that courtroom with my head higher than when I walked in. A few weeks later, life slowly calmed down. The investigation into Megan's bank attempt moved forward. I stayed out of it and let the system do its thing. We ended up with a restraining order that kept her from contacting me directly or coming to my house. My parents tried to call a few times. Sometimes I picked up, sometimes I didn't. I wasn't ready to cut them off forever, but I also wasn't ready to pretend nothing happened. I focused on my work, my little garden, and small, normal routines that made me feel grounded. Lily still saw me, but through her dad, in neutral places. I refused to use her as a weapon the way Megan used me. One evening, I sat on my porch watching the sun slide down behind the trees. I thought about Grandma, about all the times she squeezed my hand and said, "You're stronger than you think, Claire." Back then, I didn't believe her. Now I finally did. From everything that happened, I learned that staying silent when someone is slowly trying to erase you only gives them more power. Family can be the ones who hurt you the most, but that doesn't mean you have to let them take everything you have. If you feel something is wrong, gather your proof, know your rights, and stand your ground, even if you're standing alone at first. If you've been through something similar or want to share your own story, write it in the comments. Don't forget to share this video with your friends, hit the like button, and subscribe so you don't miss the next stories.